So I'm sure that you've heard by now about a certain someone in this picture leaving certain presents under the sheet. Hint, I'm talking about the brown kind. If you haven't seen a video on that, by the way, check out Yellow Flash 2. That guy does stellar work. Now, the statement the yellow flash covers, it comes from Johnny Depp's declaration, but you know what? He mentions another person, Kevin Murphy. This is the estate manager, and well, the estate manager, he has some amazing tales to tell. That's what we're going to look at here, the declaration of Kevin Murphy, where he's going to talk about that and quite a few other things in some crazy detail. Hey there, so today you and Santa That Umbrella Guy are going to join that wonderful world of Johnny Depp coverage. And you know that meant that AH left on your pillow? Don't open it. Don't open it at all. So before we get started, two things. Number one, this platform does not like this conversation about this certain person out there. And no matter what you do, they definitely say you have to do it for free. So if you like this content, make sure that you sub. And if you want to help the channel out, there are links in the description. Consider supporting it there, and thank you. Number two, I hope you and yours are doing fabulous in this time of uncertainty, but if you have any problems out there, like you can't find necessities, hit people up, hit myself up in that, because you know what? We're all in this together, and from my family to yours, sincerely, I hope that we can. So this, as I said before, is the declaration of Kevin Murphy. Kevin Murphy worked for Johnny Depp for nearly 8 years as an estate manager. He ceased working for Johnny Depp in 2016. It sounds like after all the insanity with a certain person out there. Now, I'm going to go through this thing in detail. I may stop a couple of times to talk about it, but this is the easiest way to go through these documents, just to go through and read them. So, declaration of Kevin Murphy. So, number one basically says, hey, a subpoena made me do this. I'm over 18 years of age, and if I were called as a witness, I could testify to everything within this. Number two also verifies what I was just saying about him being employed by Johnny Depp for over 8 years as an estate manager. Also, he had been doing this for several other people, other ultra high net worth individuals for over 20 years, and he ceased working for Johnny Depp in 2016. And if you look at the date range of this as we go through, look what makes him quit. He works for the guy 8 years, but the nameless one basically makes him quit. I don't know why I call that person the nameless one anymore. It's just kind of funny, so I'm going to continue with that. As Johnny Depp's estate manager, I managed many things, including all real properties, which meant I had multiple daily interactions with staff, security, and various vendors. I also attended with personal tasks when necessary. I interacted constantly with Johnny, as well as with Johnny's then wife, the nameless one. Hereinafter, still going to be the nameless one. When I was formerly employed by Johnny, I spent more time with Johnny and the nameless one than any other member of their staff. And during my time employed, I witnessed firsthand the nameless one commission both violence and verbal abuse of Johnny on multiple occasions. I never once witnessed Johnny abuse that nameless figure in any way, whether physical or verbal. I never once saw Johnny abuse anyone, male or female, during my entire tenure. I never saw Johnny raise his voice towards anyone during my entire tenure. So right there, I saw him for 8 years. I never saw him even raise his voice to someone. Now, on October the 11th and 12th, 2015, the nameless one asked me to call a witness, her former assistant Kate James, hereinafter Kate, and ask her on the nameless one's behalf to lie under oath to an Australian court that was criminally prosecuting the nameless one. Now, if you don't remember this all deals with her trying to get a dog into the country. I'm sure you saw that really rigid video that the two of them put out together. Well, apparently behind the scenes, she was trying to get somebody to lie under oath for her, and that's what he's talking about. He has his job threatened for it. So I told the nameless one that I was uncomfortable with obtaining a false statement, and accordingly, I did not do so. Specifically, the nameless one wanted Kate to give a false statement that the nameless one was unaware that it would be illegal for her her to bring her dogs into Australia. The nameless one was aware it was illegal because I had informed her repeatedly by email, phone conversation, and in-person conversation. Before asking me to call Kate and solicit her perjury to submit to a court, the nameless one forwarded me an email she had received from her attorney, Marty Singer, dated October the 11th, 2015 at 7:29 a.m. and attached hereto. That email from Marty Singer to the nameless one said, "If you could get Kate to sign a statement, it would be helpful. I don't know what your relationship with her is at this time since you fired her. You will have to be careful that she will cooperate and will not go public if you ask her not to be truthful." The nameless one responded the same day saying, "Marty, I'm waiting to hear back from you before I reach out to Kevin to liaise with Kate A.H. Another email from the nameless one to me, copying Marty Singer, states, "Kevin, do you think you could get her to do it?" Although I did not attempt to solicit perjury from Kate, the nameless one appeared very nervous and concerned when she subsequently told me there was too much risk that Kate would go public with the truth regarding her knowledge that the dogs could not travel to Australia. Shortly after the nameless one's request that I obtain a false statement from Kate, the nameless one demanded that I myself make a fraudulent false witness statement regarding the dogs, Boo and Pistol, what terrible names, illegal entrance into Australia. Again, I expressed that I was extremely uncomfortable but was met with threatening statement from the nameless one. "Well, I want your help on this. I wouldn't want you to have a problem with your job." You like that, basically, threatening his employment. I now felt a lot of anxiety and extreme unease, as I knew I had instructed the nameless one on several occasions by email, and Johnny's legal team possesses in-person conversations and numerous phone calls that she should not take the dogs to Australia because the paperwork and proper permits were not complete and required 10-day quarantine arrangements had not been put in place. I also informed her that the criminal penalties for knowingly smuggling in animals without proper paperwork could be severe. I also again reminded her that the requirements would be much more stringent and the penalties much more severe than in the Bahamas, as she had smuggled the dogs into the Bahamas on a prior occasion without any paperwork. On one day, I was informed by Johnny in person that the nameless one had committed a very specific act of violence against Johnny on the deck of one of Johnny's properties just 2 minutes before I arrived. Johnny told me that the nameless one became enraged and threw a heavy remote control so hard into Johnny's forehead that the remote control broke and left a round swelling lump with a laceration on his forehead that I could clearly see. Johnny had no reaction to being assaulted in this way. In fact, he jokingly tried to say it's no big deal and simply handed me the broken remote and asked me if I could get it fixed or replaced. I could tell he was uncomfortable and embarrassed. You can imagine that situation too. You have this guy who's supposed to be a tough guy, at least the persona there, basically having these things go on behind the scenes. Could you imagine wanting to tell anybody about it? I mean, that would be horrible. Continuing, I read the declaration submitted by the nameless one to the court on May 27, 2016, including events described by the nameless one that she claimed took place on the events of December 15, 2015, April 21, 2016, and May 21, 2016. I recall feeling stunned because had the events occurred as the nameless one claimed, there would have been noticeable damage to both the nameless ones personally and to the property in the penthouses that I was responsible for, which I could clearly see that there was no physical damage to the nameless one or any of the properties. The nameless one had publicly claimed that on December 15, 2015, Johnny savagely beat her so hard in the face and body that the bed broke. The nameless one and some of her friends who stayed rent-free in Johnny's properties later publicly claimed that on the night of the 15th, her nose was nearly broken, tufts of her hair were pulled out, her lip was split, and she had 2 black eyes. Now on that, too, I did a video talking about the reality versus the fantasy of that. You can check that out. She did a talk show appearance on December the 16th. No damage whatsoever, but that is a reoccurring thing. Continuing, I went over to Johnny's penthouse at Nameless One's request that day after she alleged this assault occurred on December 16th, 2015. Shortly after I arrived, the Nameless One called to me upstairs in the master bedroom. When I went upstairs, I found her sitting at the edge of the bed crying. I remember standing straight across from her about 4 feet away and feeling uncomfortable that she was crying. She began telling me that Johnny had beat her up. She said, "Johnny hit me so hard in the face several times and pulled my hair." I remember my feelings changing from feeling sorry for the tears to some suspicion because there were no marks on her facial area. I could also not see any area where hair was pulled, nor did she offer to show me any area of her head where hair could have been pulled out. Now, about an hour or so following this discussion, the Nameless One said that she wanted to, quote, show me something in the bedroom in the adjoining penthouse, penthouse 4. I followed her up the upstairs bedroom, penthouse 4. She pointed to the carpet where there was a tuft of hair. She said, "Johnny pulled out my hair, and there it is." Now, this stuff, it gets weird and crazy. Because I was feeling suspicious due to not observing any physical injuries during our previous conversation, I immediately took a picture of the hair with my phone. Recently, I was somewhat shocked when I saw a photo on the internet produced to the court by the Nameless One showing the hair she claimed was pulled out by Johnny, along with an injury to her forehead from her testimony of the incident. My suspicion was further aroused as I recalled the hair looking different than the hair that she showed me. When I looked at the picture I had taken, it looked quite different to me from the hair she had presented as evidence. She says a truant copy of both are there. Also, her face, on which she appeared to be wearing no makeup in our long face-to-face conversation on December 16, 2015, was clearly unmarked. I saw no bruises, cuts, swelling, redness, or any sign of any other injury during our meeting that she requested on that date. Then we get to April 21st, 2016, basically where Johnny has left that nasty present under the cover, and it all leads to the divorce and all of the insane things to come thereafter. So the Nameless One had a birthday celebration at the condominium she was then residing in with Johnny at, they give an address. The following day, the Nameless One and her friends were due to and did go to the Coachella Music Festival. Johnny had requested that I provide the Nameless One all the help I could with the party, and along with other employees, we spent about 5 hours setting up the penthouses for a party. The Nameless One later claimed that Johnny had beaten her on April 21st, 2016. Johnny's security detail, Sean Bett, who had spent 18 years as an L.A. Sheriff's Department, told me the next day that the Nameless One had in fact become enraged by Johnny arriving late from a business meeting to her birthday dinner and punched him repeatedly in the face as she lay reading in bed, forcing Mr. Bett to request a pickup and ride back to his Hollywood home. I mean, can you imagine that? Hey, I was late because I had a business meeting. Oh, you're going to punch me repeatedly in the face. Then on April 22nd, 2016, I spoke on the telephone with Hilda Vargas, Johnny's housekeeper, who was cleaning at that same residence location. Hilda told me that she had discovered feces in the Nameless One in Johnny's bed. Remember, this is her bed too. Shortly after our telephone call, I received photos from Hilda of a large amount of feces on top of the bed sheets and Johnny's side of the bed. I was on my way down to the penthouse at the time, and when I arrived, I was shocked and disgusted by what I observed as human feces on white bed sheets. So the feces did not appear to come from either Johnny's or the Nameless One's two small teacup Yorkshire Terriers who weigh approximately 4 pounds each and whose feces I had seen during my time as their estate manager when I walked and cleaned up after them on many occasions. Years later, the Nameless One blamed the feces on one of the teacup Yorkies. Now let me know if you want to know more about this event, because there's some crazy stuff in it. In fact, at the time, it was called Poopgate behind the scenes. I mean, there's just some insane stuff with it. But anyway, I sent the pictures I had received from Hilda to Johnny's security guard, Sean Bett. I believe that Sean would have the opportunity to speak with Johnny sooner than I would, given that Johnny had a busy calendar that day, and I was downtown and Johnny was at another location. Within 24 hours, I also spoke with Johnny personally about the pictures. Now, on May 12, 2016, I received a text and then a telephone call from the nameless one. And he says, here's the text message with that. When I spoke with the nameless one, she sounded very angry. She's told me that she needed her privacy, that she and Johnny were having problems, and that me sending the pictures from Hilda was not helping with those problems. She also told me that leaving the feces in Johnny's bed had just been a harmless prank. It's just a prank, bro. In addition, she told me that she was thinking of changing the locks to the condominium. I advised her that I would change the locks if both Johnny and she agreed. On the 21st, at approximately 7:46, he received a phone call from both Johnny and the nameless one, who were on speakerphone together. Johnny told me that he was sitting there talking with the nameless one, and he asked me to recount the nameless one what I had previously told him about the feces incident the month before. I repeated to the nameless one again that Hilda had discovered the feces on top of the bed sheet in Johnny and the nameless one's bed, and I also had gone over to view that personally in the bed and was 100% certain that it did not look like either of the dogs, but rather appeared to be human feces. I also repeated that the nameless one had attempted to tell me that she was responsible for what she referred as just a harmless prank. So here, she's admitting, at least according to him, that she did it. Now, the nameless one yelled and cursed at me several times, calling me a bleeping liar over and over. I asked her to stop yelling and swearing at me. I also heard Johnny in the background saying, "Hey, please don't speak to him that way. Be respectful." Then I heard Johnny say that he couldn't do this anymore, wanted a divorce. When the nameless one would not stop screaming, I hung up the phone. I received multiple additional telephone calls from the same number in the few minutes that followed, but, I refused to take them on. Now, between 8 and 8:15 that evening, I received a text from Sean Bett indicating that Johnny alone was going to call me shortly from Sean's telephone. A true and correct copy of the text message was there. I took the telephone call a few minutes later, and Johnny was extremely apologetic for the nameless one's behavior, for putting me in the middle of his marital issues. I did not see Johnny that night, but during our phone conversation, he was sober, lucid, and calm. He seemed tired and pretty sad, not angry. So then it ends there. I'm sure that that's what ends that career. But anyway, that, like I said, is the estate manager talking here too. It gives you an idea or a glimpse into how insane this stuff is. And you can believe the people that are a close-knit association around her, or you can believe employees of the guy, plus, employees that do not work for him, but that work for the building that he's in. You can have random people like police officers. You decide how you want to look at that. But let me know what you think about this. And again, if there are parts in this you want to examine more, let me know about that too. So to close this out, I want to say thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. You make this stuff possible. And Santa that umbrella guy is going to put you on the nice list, not the naughty list. So, Krampus, aka the nameless one, will not come and drop something off on your bed sheets. Don't use white though, because you never know. But seriously, thank you for being here. I do appreciate you there. And again, you want to check out the channel and all of that, definitely do. It helps out. But you being here, that matters. I want to thank you because not many people do that, and they should. And we'll do this again soon. So thank you.